All right, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to talk a bit today about ePortfolios and how I use it, particularly in two courses that I've helped TA and one that I'm currently the instructor for. So I'm filling in for a professor who retired in the Department of Agricultural Economics, Sociology, and Education. Just rolls off the tongue, but that's our new department here in the College of Ag. So again, my name is Brad Olson and Lauren Reich, our media commons consultant. So we work a lot together in this particular one course that I'll be telling you about. So first start off with talking a bit about ePortfolios in two classes, AE 440 and AE 530. 530 is a graduate level course that I TA'd with last spring, and 440 is the one that I'm currently teaching and taking over. So we'll talk a bit more in depth about AE 440 and kinds of projects that we do and how we're using media commons and different types of media. And then lastly, some of the future plans. And finally, I'll talk about, so the key of this whole thing is being able to walk away with some ideas to act on. So we'll talk about some actionable items. And again, time at the end, we'll open it up to discussion. Feel free if you have a question, raise your hand in the middle. So the ePortfolio, as we've designed it, is meant to be really an opportunity for students to showcase the knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs, I use that acronym a lot, about what they're learning in this course in terms of different types of communication methods. So we really focus on three: written, verbal, and visual communication. So we give them a crash course in a variety of projects, and we want them to be able to showcase the skills that they've learned and the actual projects themselves. We also have them write reflections on each of the assignments. So not only the skills they've learned or used in that project, but how they can use that in the future, particularly applying it to a future job. So this whole thing is geared towards prospective employers, and we really use it as a way to, me as a person with a resume, how do I make myself stand out from other applicants? One way to do that is to have a website or an ePortfolio that we can direct people to really showcase beyond the resume of just the GPA, where you went to school, some of the perhaps certificates or experiences you've had, but to really show them actual content and to get them not only to just see the content, but to learn more about the person themselves. So ePortfolio, slightly different for the two different courses. AE 440, here's just some information about the courses themselves. 30 students, typically undergraduate, predominantly upper level classmen. It is a key requirement for communication credit for many of the majors, and they tend to prefer this one than the 330W writing course. And I appreciate honesty, so I asked them that day one. I mean, how many people are here because they don't want to take 330? But nonetheless, it is a popular course, and I hope that they walk away with it being glad that they took it. Not that we have any rivalry with 330W. That one is also a wonderful course, and a good friend of mine TAs that. But again, we focus on three things: written, verbal, and visual communication. We try and prepare students to be able to communicate their knowledge in their respective fields, whether it be forestry, wildlife, fisheries science, animal science, communicate that information to a larger audience, but in different ways. So not just being able to talk about it or write about it, but being able to present it with perhaps using media or different communication methods. AE 530, slightly different. It's a graduate level course aimed at people that want to go into teaching or perhaps are going to find themselves in a TA role. So tend to have graduate students helping out with a course, and they have to teach every once in a while or fill in for a course. They don't know the first thing, or they're not, haven't had experience in some basic teaching methods. That's the idea. Where the ePortfolio comes into is particularly with this specific thing called the Teaching with Technology Certificate. This is present only at University Park, as we were talking in the session just before this. I don't believe it's available at the other campuses. And it's only available for select departments that have elected to participate in it, because it does require a coordinator in each department to be really the facilitator between the students creating these ePortfolios. The facilitator or coordinator is the one who's grading them based on specific criteria. And based on that, then they contact the Teaching with Technology folks. So I'll back out here and I'll show you their website. So teaching, TWT, Teaching with Technology. If you type in Penn State TWT, it'll pop up. But it's basically a way for students to use an ePortfolio to demonstrate they can teach with technology using a variety of methods. And it really revolves around their teaching philosophy and how they integrate technology and media into that philosophy. So it has a set, if you go, let's say, portfolio requirements, there's a series of items here that add up to a total of 45 points, and they make a suggestion of 41 points is a passing grade. So it is a bit subjective and comes up really ultimately to the facilitator or the coordinator. But when they have students complete these portfolios, they rate it based on the rubric, and then they let the teaching with technology folks know, hey, we got 5 students here, they've all passed, and then they get a physical certificate, teaching with technology certificate, and that's something that they can put on their resume. So it tends to be smaller, 10 to 15 students, and like I said, graduate students here. I'll show you 2 examples. One from 440. This was from last year's class. Really has 3 basic pages. A welcome page saying, hey, this is what this ePortfolio is designed for. Prospective employers showcase my skills in 440 through these projects, and it gives a little breakdown of some of the content. The About Me page, this is really where it sort of personalizes the applicant. If you're looking at it from a resume standpoint, of they can follow the link to their website, be able to learn a little bit more about them, put a face to the name. Certainly can't put a picture on your resume, but we can certainly direct them to information where they can find that. And again, it's something to set them apart from the rest of the applicants. And we have them attach their resume. We have them hyperlink a variety of files in creative ways. It's really about visual presentation here. And you can see that on their projects page. So instead of just saying, click here for my file, we have them do screenshots, and we hyperlink screenshots. So it looks like a document there. You click on that, and it brings up the document. Similarly, we have them create posters. Click on the poster, it brings up the full poster there. And so these are just sort of, I'll talk about these in a little bit, but these are, oops, I'm clicking too much here. These are the different projects that they do. And then what you're seeing here is the written reflections asking them to really think about, okay, now that the project's done, what have you learned? How might you use this or apply this outside of the class? That's really the crux of it. One of my key messages that I try and get people to walk away with is, how can I use these skills beyond the class, not just for the projects or the assignments to get a grade, but how can I use this outside of the course? So again, like I said, teaching with technology. You can certainly, I'm going to try and make this web PowerPoint available on the Tumblr page so that everyone can access it. So, teaching philosophy, and this whole idea of getting back to our roots is sort of the theme of this tailgate. I think that pairs up perfectly with the land-grant mission in terms of what were we originally designed? Well, we were originally designed to provide practical, applied education. That's something that I try and do in 440. Really hands-on activities that they can learn, real set skills that they can walk away with. One thing I want to strive for is greater engagement with the community. How can we tie projects that we assign in the course to get students out of the classroom to work in the community and work with folks in the community and really establish that sort of town and gown connection. The idea of cooperative extension, so again, trying to pair communication or media needs with teaching moments. And I think cooperative extension could be a place where we could do that, where folks are needing to develop videos. Again, it's all about efficiency these days, and how can we get the information out in more efficient ways? Well, video is one. We could have students work with extension educators, again, limited to geography of how far we can go. There's certainly plenty of resources here, and there's certainly resources throughout in all the different counties around the other campuses. And lastly, collaboration. So we're all bringing media folks here together to talk about similar things. How can we connect with people that we might not have met up to this point, but there's great potential to work together and try and achieve some bigger things. And lastly, capitalizing on opportunity. So just the other day I had a colleague of our department, she's now in a new position where she's in charge of recruiting. She's the Associate Dean of Multicultural Affairs. She's in charge of recruiting underrepresented students to the College of Agricultural Sciences. She came to me because she wanted to know if we'd have a project or a group of students interested in making a recruitment video. So what she'd like to do is have about 2 to 3 minutes with each person, somebody representing sort of each different background of the people they're targeting, explaining a bit about what they're doing in their major, where they're hoping to go, and use that as a recruitment video to increase numbers. So that's definitely something that we can do, and I'm going to pitch that to the class. Now, I'm not going to force it on them, because the 10-minute video that they're going to be doing is really meant to be their own topic. They get to choose. I've been sort of guiding them this whole time. This is the one chance they get to really let their passions show and do a project solely on what they want. But I will put it out there as an offer, and if we don't get any takers, I'll certainly step in and work with her. But things like that, to try and seek out more opportunities. This one just sort of fell into my lap, which was wonderful, but if we could seek it out too, we might find more. So I've sort of been talking about ePortfolio this entire time, but really we give them a couple lectures on some core topics of sort of the more theory behind communication and how we communicate in a variety of ways. But really what we focus in on is sort of the workshops for essential skills. So I give them the nuts and bolts to get familiar with the technology and how to go about laying out a game plan, and then I let them go. And then I take on more of the role as a consultant. So it's an idea of learning by doing, which is sort of more of my own teaching philosophy and how I learn best. I think with something like this in media and the actual equipment, that's the best way that we can learn about this. Rather than me showing them everything, every last detail, I want them to make mistakes. I want them to start recording and realize that their mic wasn't plugged in, and that's something you don't forget. And I've done it plenty of times, so I know. But lastly, with a lot of this group work, because it does have to be in a class of 30 students, one instructor, I can't reach everybody in a given class if they're all doing individual projects. So I tend to group them up because, one, it's a time saver, but two, it just takes a few people sometimes to work with the headphones to monitor audio, to work the camera. You have somebody on screen as a talent. So it tends to be very group-based, but because I understand it's difficult to coordinate schedules, and everyone's busy, everyone's got a variety of things, so I try and dedicate class time where, at least in theory, they should all be in one place at the same time. And I think they really appreciate that. It's just sometimes, there's not enough hours in a day, and you'd love to keep on, going on, but you got another class coming through. But I think that's a big part about what makes this work, is that we do set aside time for them to work together as a group. So here's just sort of a snapshot of all that we do. The online quizzes and reflections, that's just for just showing you how sort of we evaluate things here and there. The media proposal, so that's a written assignment where we have them sort of take on the role of a media strategist, and their job is to promote either an organization, an issue, an event. They want to get the word out about something. They're going to do that using a variety of methods of media. And so what they have to do is they have to justify what their audience is, what the media, or the types of media that they're using, and why they're connecting those two. I'm using newspaper or radio ads with this target population because it's adults. Here's X, Y, and Z sources that say that's a popular media for reaching this demographic. So it's really bringing in, it's not just willy-nilly, yeah, I'm going to do a newspaper ad, I'm going to do radio, and I'm going to do a TV ad, but actually picking these things for specific reasons. We have them develop a timeline, a budget, to really get them to think about all aspects. It's not just about getting a camera and hitting record. It's about everything, sort of as a whole project. Did you have a question? Okay. Again, the 4-photo assignment, that's just practice in photography. The podcast episode, we have them talk on in the Whisper booth for about 3 to 4 minutes on a subject that they feel the public should be aware of but isn't. So they bring stuff. We have predominantly, I think it's like 62% wildlife and fishery science students this year. So a lot of them have been on white-tailed deer management in Pennsylvania. I get that topic a lot. But again, that's a passion that comes through in the projects that we have in this course. ePortfolio, as I explained before, the 2 and 10-minute videos. 2-minute video is a video about, it just basically promotes a department on campus here in the College of Agricultural Sciences, but I write the script. I read the script and the shot treatments, and they're given basically instructions that they have to then go film. And I do that so they can see as an example of the level of detail and why it helps that when you say this person stands on this side, the camera is 15 feet away, and you're framing them in the right half of the shot, you have to be detailed, because if you just say stand 15 feet away and film them, most likely you're going to get head-on, center, who knows what. But the ability to really get targeted shots, really with the help of the script, is something that is new to them. So I try and give them an example with a 2-minute video. So they just finished that up, and they're getting ready. I'll introduce the 10-minute video assignment on Tuesday. They're on their own for that. They pick their groups. They pick their topic. They have to develop a script. They hand the script in, and I edit that and give them feedback on that, and then they hand in a final script. Also part of that, they're getting feedback from an outside person, a client, so to speak. So we try and make this as real as possible, where somebody's, a local dog kennel wants a promo video to show at a fundraiser drive or something like that. We would have them work with them to try and say, okay, this is some of the content that I would like you to get. I'd like you to show all the cute little puppies, or I'd like you to show me talking on camera, explaining a bit about what we do here. They'll be required to get 2 to 3 people on camera as experts, sort of doing an interview, talking about the subject, and then they're also going to be required to be on camera. And you'd be surprised, 10 minutes gets filled up pretty quick. Most of the films last year went over that. They were about 12 to 14 on average. But because you have multiple people in a group, each doing sort of a 2 to 3 segment, it doesn't feel that long. It's sort of taking it in chunks, if you will. And lastly, a final survey research project. We have them develop a 1-page survey instrument about a topic that they feel people don't know enough about, or they'd like to find out if people know enough about it. So we have them develop a 1-page survey, 10 to 15 questions, send it out to about 20 people. Don't have them write a paper, because the important lesson really is when they get that data back, how can they present that to an audience? So how can you translate being able to survey population, the general public, whoever it may be, get that data back and then present that to your peers or present that back to the public? And how could you use that to identify where you might need to go from there? Sort of a needs assessment, if you will, using survey research. But again, it's a different style of communication about being able to translate numbers on the screen or graphs or charts to what that really means to an organization. So again, we pack a lot into this course. But my theory behind that is if this is the one shot that they get to be exposed to this, if this is their one required comm class, and after this they're saying, I don't want anything to do with comm, I at least want them to have that exposure to a variety of activities. So we work with media tech support services a lot, checking out equipment. They've been very helpful and willing to work with us and extending, people. Project goes a couple of days later and we need that camera for a few more days. They've been more than happy to work with us on that, so I'm appreciative of that. The 4-photo assignment, so something like they would get up in front, they take this photo and talk about the photo composition elements within the photo to their peers. They do that for 4 photos. The idea behind this is to get them to look at photography in a different way. It's not just a pretty picture, but you can dissect what makes it interesting. How do we attract people using imagery? Well, we can say we have the rule of thirds by this horizon. We have a horizon up here. We have repeating light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. What else? We have nice, bright, bold colors of the green contrasting with the blue. We try and get them to not just say, okay, yeah, it's a nice picture of a field. There's a cow. Looks nice. But be able to specifically say, okay, no, we constructed this photo in a very specific way for a specific purpose. I think it's something new that most people don't think about, and some people go wild with it and just have a knack for photography and really enjoy it. But either way, I think everyone comes away with, wow, geez, I'm not going to look at just a photo in the same way anymore. Subconsciously or consciously, I'm going to be picking out, okay, yeah, I can see repeating patterns or lots of color, rule of thirds, filling the frame, things like that. So we did something new this year, and we had a photography field demo day where I gave them a shot list of 10 different photo composition elements I wanted them to incorporate in their photos. So one photo highlighting one particular element. I let them out, go wild in the Arboretum here. It's a great resource that was close and lots of items and subjects to shoot. And then I would work with them. They'd come back after they were done shooting, and I'd give them feedback on all their photos. And we split the class up that day because I do have a class of 30, and to try and get around everybody in the period of time that we have. It is a 2-hour class, but that time flies quicker than you know. So we split the class up and had half the class doing the photography field day with me and the other half doing the podcasts in the 109 ASI Media Commons. So Lauren and John Kofer were helping out with that. The media proposal and poster. So I was talking about the proposal. Well, we haven't developed a poster advertising that same topic. So they combine the photography skills that they've learned about photo compositional elements, combining it with the topic of their media proposal, and how can they convey the information to get people to attend an event, join an organization, volunteer their time at a particular cause. So this is an actual example from a student this year. They just handed it in the other week. But we have them basically create some basic information. An audience looking at it would be able to attend their event. They have all the necessary information. But then we also have them create a QR code bottom of the poster. So we don't want to clutter the poster so much. There may be more content or more interesting information that we want people to be aware of. So we can send them to a website using the QR code. And that's sort of, I use that as an analogy with the ePortfolio on a resume. We can't pack all the information we want to talk about on a resume. Let's give them a website to go through where they can see more information. Again, the 2 and 10-minute video, pre-selected topic for the 2-minute, really about going through the motions and going through the steps. And then they're on their own for the 10-minute video. But I help them out along the way, and I'm certainly open to consulting with them. But I try and have hands off and let them really take it in the direction they want to. Unfortunately, the professor who retired, he took all the hard copies of the 10-minute videos I have, so I'm just left with scouring the previous students' ePortfolios where they posted them. And this one was a rather low-quality YouTube video, but it was advertising the Poultry Science Club, and they did a really nice job filming in several different locations. Although it was a bit noisy because all the birds in the background. So we did a similar video demo day, like the photography day. We want to get them out in the field practicing with the equipment. So we had them break off into groups of about 5 or 6, and they were given, again, sort of a shot list of different video shots to get. And I bounced around and worked with them as we were just outside of the building, as they were getting their different shots. And I took a couple photos along the way. But again, people are checking out cameras from Media Tech, the wireless mics. We have them do the whole bit. So when I'm talking sort of about how do we get people to really use and make them use the more complex cameras, this is what I'm talking about. Actually going and getting the experience of what does it take to make sure that, okay, same frequency on the wireless mic on our talent, same frequency to the monitor, it's plugged in, everything. It seems a bit overwhelming, but this class is definitely an exercise in how far can we push students. And I haven't pushed them over the edge yet, and I'm glad. I dance along that line. But I do think they are capable of this. And as upper-level classmen, I think we should be pushing them to really go out of their comfort zone. But I'm certainly there to help them and as a resource to work with them. I don't want them to just get frustrated with the technology and go, I'm never using this. This is horrible. I've had a horrible experience. So where things can kind of go, I talk about really this idea of real-life application. How can we take the projects in the course and really have them be utilized outside of it? The educational video, I think, is a great way to start. Perhaps promoting an organization, or like I said, my colleague came up to me wanting a promotional video for recruitment purposes. I think people can do that. Let's go to the next page here. That can certainly be used in a variety of ways, and we'll get to that in a sec. The podcast episode, I think this has great potential. This is something I would love to explore further. But if you have a course dedicated to Biology 101, you could chunk it off into students taking content or a topic or a section each week and preparing content and material to be imported into a podcast where they themselves, each group could say, okay, we're doing this week's episode for Biology 101, the podcast. And that's a great way because you can, one, put it on iTunes U. I don't know if anybody else attended that session earlier. But you can also, as just an audio file, put it on Angel, put it on a website. It's not confined to just one Apple product or one platform, if you will.
Just so you know, we just have a couple minutes left.
Okay. The ePortfolio, like I've explaining, that certainly could be used outside of, but even just to showcase students' academic progress, not just in this course, the kinds of things that they're doing, but other projects that they've done throughout their career. The podcast, I've pretty much went through that and given you what I was thinking of sort of as a whole class. The video, so being able to give students the opportunity to share something that they're passionate about, something that they have an interest in. You'd be surprised what they come up with. And they certainly can get excited about that. And I think it's pairing with, they're excited about the topic, even if they're marginally, video, okay, I'm not quite sure I want to use it, but wow, I can really tell the story about something I'm interested in or something that's exciting to me. It helps push them over the edge, helps get them over that hump, and they really start to participate in it. And it doesn't have to be anything super long, 2 to 3 minutes. You can have them talk about something that they're passionate about, have some B-roll or cutaway footage. So if I'm really interested in archery, been competing in archery or something like that for many, many years, I might talk about that, have some video of me shooting my bow, something like that. It's 2 to 3 minutes is very manageable on all accounts. And you can have them do editing workshops with Media Commons. We have our students work with them. They just did that the other week. And lastly, showcase those videos in class because they put a lot of work into it. They're very passionate about it, and they certainly put in a lot of time and effort to produce these videos. They want it to be shared. They're not creating it just for their own enjoyment. They want to share that content. So giving them a platform or an environment where they can do that certainly helps reward them. Again, the website or blog or ePortfolio can be used for a variety of things. The recruitment video, I think this is sort of one of the more practical options. You can do it for anything, a program, department, or even a class. You have a couple questions that you want to ask students. Why did you join this class? What did you get out of it? What would you recommend, or would you recommend it for other students? Film 5 to 8 of them answering those set questions. Combine it with some extra footage of perhaps you in the classroom teaching or interacting with the students. And then you sort of do a montage of, hey, why join AE 440? Here's 5 students sort of giving their own personal take about why you should join, not just because it's a different alternative to 330W. So I think that certainly is something that's easily manageable for any individual, and certainly can be used, again, multiple times over and over. It's not just, you could even turn it into a class assignment if you wanted to. The ability to, I think, use video, and that's what I tend to equate media with. So pardon me if I'm very video intensive, but it's an exciting medium that most students don't tap into. Sure, they take pictures or they maybe shoot a little video with their iPhone, but really planning out video to shoot something to convey information or to talk about a subject and educate a population or an audience about that is something that I really want students to get experience with. So with that, sort of what's the best way to add that into? Well, I think it's a fine balance between the amount of points and time faculty members are willing to dedicate to it. And I understand that, believe me, with a course that we have so much packed into, time is limited. So trying to find ways to make it more palatable, I think, is key. Using the content outside of the course, not only perhaps in the course itself, you can change content each time, but perhaps using it in other courses related to your course. So if you're teaching a 400 level biology course, using some of that content in your intro or seminar courses. And lastly, how do we get students to really use these skills, their knowledge, skills, and abilities beyond the course, to see that there are opportunities to use this, not just in this class, but it's actually applicable in the real world. So with that, I'll leave you here with the contact information because we're all about QR codes, of course. This is pretty slick because you can scan this and it will automatically populate name, phone number, address, and I have my website there too, which is just my personal website on Penn State. But you can scan this and a smartphone will automatically populate it and you can just hit add contact.
And then you can call Brad at any hour of the day.
There you go. Luckily it's my work phone and not my cell phone. But here's just a couple slides at the tail end of how I did that. So this is sort of some beta testing that a person was using, but it works. And you sort of copy this code, and what's highlighted in orange is what you replace your information with. Again, I'm all about tutorials and step-by-step instruction, so it's easy to understand. And there's a couple different formats if you just want to name, phone, email, name, email, and address. her website there.